Hello, my name is Madeline, and me and a little fairy, she's called Belle, we run a little bookshop in Warren Point, which is actually in Northern Ireland, and it's a children's bookshop. And usually on Saturdays at 11:30 we do our story time sessions, and then in the afternoon we do arts and crafts. But obviously because of the coronavirus, we had to cancel our events. So obviously that's why we're doing this free online storytime session, and we also created some arts and craft kits for children. They contain a World Book Day book as well, and loads of different sort of arts and crafts materials, and yeah, you can buy them for £3 on our website, and some of them actually contain a sticker book as well. So, but they're all different. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been just so incredible for us because there are so many people who liked our post, and yeah, we've reached so many people, so thank you very much for your support, and above all, thank you for believing in the magic of stories, because that's why we're here. We believe in the magic of stories. And I'm actually, you probably can hear this, my accent is a bit different. I'm actually German, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous because there are so many people watching, and yeah, I'm trying my best, so hope you enjoy it. So I've already mentioned a little fairy that lives in our bookshop. She's called Belle, and I've got a beautiful illustration here. Hope you can see it. This illustration was done by a friend, an artist friend. She's called Soraya, and she's got a Facebook page as well. It's at Soraya's Drawer, and she created this beautiful illustration of our fairy. Fairies are normally quite shy, they don't want to show themselves to humans, but yeah, Belle gave us the permission to show this little illustration of her. So as you can see, she's got a strawberry hat and beautiful red shoes as well. So you are actually the first ones to see our Belle, and I'm sure in the next few months you're gonna hear more stories about Belle, and yeah. So and Belle was so kind, she wrote us a little letter, and I'm gonna read this little letter to you, and that's how we look. It's very beautiful. That's how we look. Oh. It's very small writing. Okay, are you ready? Dear children, I am Belle. I am a fairy. Not just any fairy, but a very rare nature spirit. That means I have a little bit of elf in me, not to be mistaken with the pixies. Too cheeky. Not me. I am great-granddaughter of the great tinker, niece of the once famous wand fighter Parry Trotter, and loyal fairy custodian to the wee Bookworm's bookshop. This early morning, after chasing the grumpy gnomes, they are also fairies, believe it or not, just not as pretty, more dwarf than elf, around the fairy garden for about an hour, they finally gave up and told me their most top secret of all secrets that is being talked about in the animal, fairy and forest kingdom. The secret is that you don't have to go to nursery or school for a wee while. For me, that is the perfect time to read a good book. Perhaps you're already wondering what my favorite thing is about living in a bookshop. It is waiting for just the right time for a book or person to leave the shop. I often secretly sprinkle my fairy dust on them when no one is looking. Unfortunately, it can't make you fly because you don't have any wings. But it makes you all sparkly and much better at reading books. I do this to keep the magic of books alive and all the worlds inside them. Do you know where fairy dust comes from? Well, it comes from the fairy fruits, of course. We mash our fairy fruit and then it turns into fairy dust. That's how easy it is for us fairies. My fairy fruit is a strawberry, which is why I wear a strawberry hat. My mother's fairy fruit is the pineapple. Pineapples are awfully big, so my mom's hat is very heavy. My dad's fairy fruit is a grape. His hat is very watery. But my brother, he is the most unfortunate. His fairy fruit is the banana. And thus he has to wear a slimy banana hat. Yuck! What? You are wondering how boys can be fairies? Don't be silly. Of course there are fairies that are boys. My daddy and my brother, for example. And then there are my granddads and my uncle and great-granddads and my cousin and my great-great-granddads. And by the way, sometimes when you can't make up your mind about what to read, I whisper into your ear and tell you which book to pick. I have read all the books in the world. I'm the most cleverest of all bookshop fairies. Oh, there is one more thing I would like to mention. I need your help to keep the magic of stories alive, so we can keep all the worlds inside of books safe. I'm not able to sprinkle around my magic fairy dust because the bookshop is closed. So I want to see if it works if we do it online. I'm not sure, but we can try. To get you started, I have enclosed your first book and some fairy dust. Oh yeah, she did that. So good luck, everyone. I will let you know if our plan works next week. Talk to you next week. Take care. Your Belle. Kiss, kiss. That's very nice of her. So let's have a wee look. We've got our fairy dust here. I'm going to sprinkle it around. And then we also got our first book. But before I show you our first book, I would like you to have a look at these little characters. We've got the hungry caterpillar. We've got Spot the dog. They're all from the bookshop. And we also got Zog. And these characters are from very, very, very popular children's books. But then we've also got Peter Rabbit. Now I am a big fan of Peter Rabbit, and we are so lucky because Belle picked that book for us, The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. So we're going to read this. I have a wee photo of Beatrix Potter as well. That is Beatrix Potter here. So yeah, we're going to read The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. I hope you're gonna enjoy it.
The audio is not working.
Oh,
Just
1 second.
what is going on? Bear with me.
Yeah?
You're good. Ah, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Do you have to restart?
Nope. I think you do better.
Huh? I think we have to actually start our story time session again because we had problems with the microphone. So I'm really sorry. You probably heard me, well, you didn't hear me, but you saw me move a lot. So we're just going to do it again. Well, that's live. A live Facebook session for you. That's what happens. So I'm just going to start again. Okay, so my name is Madeline, And I'm sure you didn't hear that. My name is Madeline, and me and a little fairy called Belle, we run a little bookshop in Warren Point, which is in Northern Ireland. And some of you might already know me. Every Saturday at 11:30 we do a story time session, and then in the afternoon we do arts and crafts. But
Audio was good. You can read the story.
oh, so now this is a really good live session. This is so typical.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for staying here. Yeah, no, this is just a normal live session. So the
next one
audio,
will be perfect.
the audio was good apparently. Hope he's not going to change his mind again. So we finally can read The Tale of Peter Rabbit. And I'm so sorry about this, but yeah, that's a live Facebook session for you. Whew. Okay, please don't go away. Right. Again, one last time, The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. No, now run along and don't get into mischief. I'm going out." Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was a very naughty rabbit, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees, planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have got away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful, beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. Ka-choo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. I can see Mr. McGregor here. And poor Peter. and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of the window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Oh wait, no, oh no, another thing. We missed a bit of the story, I think. Oh no, we didn't. Oh my goodness, what's going on? Okay, no, it's all okay. So sorry. Okay. Oh, Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all round. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away. Without speaking to her, he had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a scratch, scratch, scratch. Peter scuttled underneath the bushes. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go, along a straight walk behind some blackcurrant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. Oh, Peter. I'm sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter, 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. Now that's the tale of Peter Rabbit, the famous one. Yeah, that's us. That's our story time for this week. So I hope you're looking forward to hearing more from our fairy Belle. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we're really sorry that we had so many little problems and a little bit of confusion. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you next week at 11:30 a.m. And it's going to be live again. So thank you.
And there will be no blips.
And there will be no blips. Thank you very much. Bye bye.